It's a great day in Kershaw County, in this all-America county, and we have a quorum. All members are present, and I just want to open up with a little bit of a tutorial on how we operate in this emergency situation. But first, I want to welcome Senator Gustafson. Thank you, ma'am, for being here. And we have a Boy Scout who's trying to get his eagle. Thank you, Mr. Teague. Good to see y'all, and I enjoyed our conversation about how to run a government. I think I'll try to get better based on what you told me to do. Well, consistent with a state of emergency declared since March by our governor, this county has likewise declared a state of emergency, and it has been renewed 5 times, and recently at our last meeting. Let me explain a little bit about that emergency ordinance at the outset of this meeting, because very many of you have asked about it, and I've seen it on Facebook too. First, we are a great county and a great people. It is not out of fear or despair that we have an emergency ordinance. We are Americans, we are patriots, but we're taking prudent measures. Rather, it is a call to unified action. Mr. Jones, can you put your mask on? Yeah, thank you. A state of emergency is a sensible, measured, constitutional way governments react to crisis and to issues. In this case, it is an unseen menace. It is deadly, and it keeps changing and taking lives and livelihoods right along with it. Some even question the need for an emergency ordinance, and some call the COVID a hoax, or it's like the flu and no worse. And still others question the need to take the shots. All reasonable issues, all reasonable in a free country. And these views need to be heard and expressed in the public forum, and we want to hear them. But many others take the opposite view, that this is a deadly thing among us and needs special precautions. Regrettably, the dialogue has become politicized. You've all seen it on the media. But the facts are that Kershaw County has 700 cases and more right now. We have some 40 to 50 new cases every day, and the surge has taken a toll in mortality at a grievous number, approaching nearly 90 dead in our small county. But today is the first day in nearly 30 days that our numbers have dropped below 40 new cases a day. So let me tell you a little bit about how the emergency ordinance works. It is approved by this council, and only so long as we first have one at the state, too. It allows us to conduct a business in our county, assure services, and that both our citizens and the county employees' lives are protected. We do these things for hurricanes and earthquakes and fires, and we're doing it for a pandemic. Thanks to this council and to Mr. Carpenter, we have done a great deal during this emergency. We have provided PPE, we have coordinated responses. We continue to provide sheriff, ambulance, fire, and public works in spite of it. And we have, like no other county, even provided direct assistance because of the vote of these men at this table to small businesses. Indeed, this council, in partnership with schools and towns and our medical heroes, are making a difference. And to ensure that our great liberties as Americans are protected format, which we are in tonight. And that assures every voice is heard and transparency is maintained while promoting hygienic prevention against this COVID. Now, here are some of the features of tonight's virtual e-meeting format that we've been practicing for some time. Persons are required to mask and socially distance in compliance with a law that was passed by the city of Camden, and since we're inside the city of Camden, we comply. County has no such law, but we encourage mask and social distancing, and when shots are available, to take the shot when out and about in the county. We encourage attendance by our citizens at these meetings, but we must limit capacity in this room so as to socially distance. If folks wish to render public comments, they can welcome to come, and we have a few people here tonight. But we also have expanded and improved public access for those trying to avoid COVID and not have to come here in several ways. For those who wish to make public comments from home, we ask that you send an email to Mary Siegler, to my left, your right, and those will be read here and to this body. And secondly, we assure transparency through electronic means by the live streaming format, and you should be watching now. So pardon me for that lengthy preamble. So I now ask you to stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. As it says in the good book in Psalm 33, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. I first ask a moment of silence for those we have lost in COVID in the last 30 days, to including 6 alone in the last weekend. Now join me in prayer. Lord God, we adore and worship you. We put our hands and our lives and our futures and our devotion at your feet. We ask your guidance and counsel. All this we ask in the name of our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen.
Now join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, everybody. Please be seated, and let's move right into our agenda. We are called to order. We've completed the pledge, and now we're open to public comments. And under our e-meeting format, we first take those that have been submitted to Mary. Mary, do you have any?
I have one, Chairman.
All right, if you'd read that, please, and tell us who it's from, please.
It's from Jeff Maddox, and he states...
Is that going over the mic? Bring the mic over a little closer. Yeah, thank you.
Ready? Kershaw County Council on 1/12/21 voted unanimously to recommend residents adhere to all federal and state health agency guidelines and recommendations pertaining to the COVID-19 response. Kershaw County Council provided no peer-reviewed medical studies to prove their recommendations for mask, social distancing, or vaccine safety. Kershaw County Council did not inform citizens the vaccines are, in fact, experimental and long-term effects are unknown. This recommendation may cause harm to those who follow recommendations of Kershaw County Council without their own due diligence. Kershaw County Council should never recommend and or mandate personal medical prevention measures and or treatments to individuals. Kershaw County Council has by this action proven their own lack of due diligence, and by those actions have shown a disregard for the safety and welfare of individual members of the public who follow these recommendations.
At the conclusion?
Yes, sir.
And thank you very much, Mr. Maddox. Other submissions, Mary?
No, sir.
Mr. DeBose, do we have any signed up?
One person signed up, Mr. Chairman, and that is the person, the senator you just recognized, Senator Gustafson.
Senator, if you'd come up, please, thank you. And the rules of the House are we'll try to limit to 5 minutes, please. If you bring the mic over to your face.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to note that the good senator gave me a phonetic breakdown.
I did.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening. It's such a pleasure to be back here with you, with Kershaw County Council. I've been trying to get back, but I've been working a lot, and just like you guys have been working, and I'm just thrilled to be able to see you face to face and to share with you some things that are going on, some good news, and we certainly need that, don't we? I first want to just say to the public and to you that as your new state senator, I am very available anytime. I have a brand new office in the Grasset building at the state grounds, the State House grounds. Office is 610B. I'm at the top, at the corner, and I'm looking at the State House every day when I'm not in it. I have a wonderful assistant. My cell number has not changed. Please do call or email me. I've got my business cards I brought, and I think I've distributed those. I also distributed out a listing of bills that I'm sponsoring or co-sponsoring. So I'm going to try to be very brief and just kind of tell you about what's going on and what's going on specifically this week. Top legislative issue this week is S1, which is the heartbeat bill. Today, we were going through amendments in the Senate chamber. I do support this bill, and we hope that this goes to a vote this week. I will keep you updated with that. It's easy to be updated. Everything is transparently online, just like this meeting is streamlined. So are all the meetings in the Senate chamber. One of the very first things being tackled as your new state senator is helping the fire district. Now, this is a long overdue thing for us, for Kershaw County. And I think this is the way we're going to allow our fire department to get the necessary equipment and get caught up in technology before it all goes, before it expires. But the bill with for the fire district, that is S401, and Senator Greg Hembry and I are co-sponsoring. We are gathering support for this. Kershaw County needs this help, and I'm going to do my best to get this through this year so next year's budget can immediately be affected. All right? So I am doing my absolute best. I talked to some senior senators this afternoon and this morning about this bill, and I will continue to do so heavily and get it hopefully to the floor for a vote. All right? So I want to let y'all know that is a top priority for me. Also, a top priority urgently today is working with DHEC. And I'm so happy to be able to share some good news because it's been frustrating for a lot of people and disheartening dealing with the online systems that don't seem to work. But as of today, the DHEC board has agreed and decided on a new allocation method for the vaccine distribution. And this has been an issue for Kershaw County. I've been working closely with Kershaw Health and others, and closely with DHEC themselves. And as of today, it looks like we're going to be getting up to 4 times what we've been giving, okay? And hang on tight because more is coming. They have actually designed, across South Carolina, they've got this little bank of extra doses, and what they're going to do is make adjustments week to week as needed. But we're getting guaranteed over 700 doses per week now. And to give you some context, we were going to get 185 this upcoming week, okay? So, and that is a huge jump for us. The hospital is prepared. They are doing a really good job, and our local people are getting more prepared. Thank you to DHEC, and thank you to Mr. Vic Carpenter. We, through a lot of pushing and advocacy, because I told you I'd be a strong voice, right? Well, I got somebody from Kershaw County on the South Carolina Vaccine Advisory Committee. They're actually making some of these decisions and advising DHEC. So thank you, Mr. Carpenter, to being willing to serve on that. The other thing I'm working on is with the coroners. They need our support. They need to have first responder status, which is amazing to me. They haven't had that. So I am supporting Bill S402, and also to build up the quality of the coroners in South Carolina. I presented Bill 368 that will revise the coroner qualifications. So instead of just being enrolled in some sort of certification program online, they actually had to have completed one. I don't think y'all would want me to be a coroner if I just signed up online and said, hey, I'm eligible. So, and also been working very closely with our coroners across the state, but specifically in Kershaw County, Mr. David West. He is to be commended. All of you are to be commended. The police are to be commended. The first responders in general should be commended. The death certificate software, which processes the death certificates, had lots of problems with that, working on that. And finally, I just want y'all to know that we got great people. We're getting shots in arms. And and try to just ask people to be a little bit more patient because we have turned a corner on the COVID vaccination rollout. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. Try not to get too long, and I'll be available after the meeting to talk to anyone. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Senator, and for your support of the fire bill in particular. Mr. DeBose, what's next?
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the sign-up list.
So that concludes public comments. We move to the adoption of the agenda. We're going to need to make an amendment, but first let's put it on the table. Can we ask that we get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Mr. Gardner, a second.
Second.
For Mr. Tucker. And I'd now like to ask for an amendment to the agenda to remove the public presentation. Mr. Outlaw is unable to come today. Can we have such an amendment?
Make a motion to remove the public presentation.
Mr. Tucker, a second.
Second.
For Mr. Gardner, any discussion? Mary, there was no reason given, but hopefully we can see him. I will say I got a call from the Clean Community Commission, Ms. Wanda Swan, and I tell you, they are still working hard, and you can look for some good things on the roadway as soon as they get it can develop. But Wanda and that whole team are very special to us. With that, let's move to vote on the amendment. All those in favor signify by raising your hand, and it's unanimous. And now we need to vote on the amendment to the agenda as amended.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
All right. And what'd you say, Sammy? Can't hear you through this mask.
I said you make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
And a second, please.
Second.
Second from Mr. Gardner. Any discussion? Seeing there is none, let's move to a vote. All those in favor signify. And it's amended, Mary, and if you'd make that change. Thank you. With that, let's move to the approval. I was skipping the public. Here we are, the resolution. We now have a resolution honoring Mr. Jonathan Shepard. And I'm delighted to say that we have the Carolina Cup leadership here. We have Mr. Toby Edwards, we have John Cushman, and we have the chairman of the board of the Carolina Cup, Mr. William Cox. We're delighted you three gentlemen are here. What I'll do is read the resolution. We'll vote and comment, and then we'll present. And so with that, here we go. A resolution honoring Mr. Jonathan Shepard. Whereas Jonathan Shepard was born the 2nd of December, 1940, in England, 45 miles north of London. His father, Daniel, was a jockey club handicapper, and as a result, Mr. Shepard was exposed to racing at an early age. Since a racing career in England was impossible, he came to the United States in the 60s, turned his eyes westward to the United States, and landed in Pennsylvania with Burley Cox. Shepard absorbed a knowledge of American flat and steeplechase racing, and after a return to England and a brief period working in France, he came back to the United States. And whereas he took a trainer's license in 1965 and won a start on the flat that very year, Mr. Shepard, a Hall of Fame trainer whose horses excelled on the dirt, on turf, and over steeplechase fences, will retire from American horse racing, but will continue to train a small stable in Ireland. He has won every race and prize worth winning in American steeplechasing racing over the last 56 years. He is the National Steeplechase Association all-time leading trainer by wins with over 1,200 wins and purse earnings of over $24 million. He has been the champion trainer by wins 26 times, and he has led the sport by purses in 29 years. Both are records. He has also had the distinction of winning a race at Saratoga Racecourse in 47 straight years through 2015. Whereas he has won 15 Eclipse Awards and 11 individual Eclipse Awards, to include 2 Hall of Fame members, Augustine Stables, Cafe Prince, and Flatterer. The 4-time champion, 1983 to 86, who was bred by Shepard and William Pape. He was also inducted into the National Museum of Racing Hall of Fame in Saratoga Springs in New York in 1990. And whereas he has served as a National Steeplechase president from 2004 to 2006 and receives the sport's highest honor, the F. Ambrose Clark Award in 2013. He has also provided leadership in other ways throughout his career. He has always been the go-to interview for race meets, looking to provide media stories that were positive, honest, and easy to understand. With the late Jack Van Berg, he has been an innovator in marshaling large training stables similar to those in his native England. He has also participated in groundbreaking research projects with the University of Pennsylvania, New Bolton Center, and throughout his career, he has strived successfully to bring new owners into thoroughbred racing. The shadow Mr. Shepard cast over the sport is immeasurable. Now, therefore, be it resolved, Kershaw County acknowledges with grateful appreciation the contributions of Mr. Jonathan Shepard that has been made to the horse racing community of Kershaw County. We wish him a healthy and productive retirement. May we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. A second?
Second.
From Mr. Snodgrass. Discussion. Mr. Jones?
I'd just like to say that was a wonderful resolution. Congratulations, and glad to be part of it.
Oh, absolutely. Mr. Snodgrass?
Yeah, just want to echo what Mr. Jones said. Thank you, Mr. Shepard, for your contribution to the sport of steeplechase racing and just making Kershaw County, adding to the value of this great county. People forget the international draw and touch that we have here in Kershaw County, and a lot of that has to do with the equine community, and we are so very thankful for the equine community and their influence on Kershaw County and how they make it a better place. Thank you.
Absolutely. Other comments? I'll say that we have two jockeys here, Mr. Toby Edwards, who is the executive director of the Carolina Cup, and then we have Mr. John Cushman, who raced on behalf of Mr. Shepard, and also a jockey and former chairman of the board of the Kershaw County's premier racing event, the Carolina Cup. And I thank you both gentlemen for being here tonight. When you talk to the jockeys in the racing world about Mr. Shepard, there's nothing short of awe when you deal with him. And he is the most humble and polite man you could hope to meet. And we are delighted and honored that we are able to do this tonight. And Mr. Cox, thank you for coming on behalf of the rest of the board of the Carolina Cup. And we hope to have a great race on the 22nd of May, correct? Absolutely. So I think we can move to a vote. Let's move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Excellent. And it passes. Mary, if the three gentlemen would come forward, we'll make a presentation. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Jones, Mr. Snodgrass, and all of you for that opportunity to honor one of the greats on a global scale of horse racing. With that, we'll go past the public presentation, which has been removed from the agenda, to the approval of minutes. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So move.
Very good, Mr. Gardner. Second, please.
Second.
Second from Mr. Connell. Thank you. And we move, any discussion? With that, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand.
Thank you,
And
Ms. Mayor.
Mary, it's passed and the minutes are approved. We now move to administrative updates, and this one is a COVID-19 from Mr. Carpenter. Mr. Carpenter, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you see in front of you again the current status of the 14-day average in Kershaw County. We've kind of narrowed down to just the last 4 months as we were getting well into a year and are starting to lose the ability to ascertain what was happening. So as you see, the last couple of days we've had a decrease. We had 19 cases today. Our peak in the last was 93 in a single day. So our 14-day average has come almost to 800. Now it is dropping. It is still in the 700 range, which is significantly above where it was. Next, there you see in the cases per month, with still some days left in the month of January, we are obviously well ahead of any other month and looking maybe even to double our next highest month.
And the number on the right, if you back up one, is an average daily.
Average, okay, yes, sir.
So it's 37 average daily.
Yes, sir. So when July was our previous peak until the holidays, we have doubled our previous peak since the holidays. And then our next figure is just the raw numbers for the month. And again, in the month of January, we've already had well over 1,000 cases confirmed. And is there another one, Danny? Yeah. The mortality rate is, the chairman alluded to earlier, the coroner reported 6 additional fatalities over this past weekend, which bring us to a total of 84 deaths in the county. And Mr. Chairman, that's my report for where we stand.
Very good. Comments, gentlemen? All right. Yeah, Mr. Jones, please, sir.
Vic, tell me how we're standing on the vaccine push out.
Well, the hospital is the entity that is giving currently. We only have one location in the county that is providing the vaccine. And they have been limited in their abilities, first by supply and then also by their ability to maintain inventory on hand, as it has to be kept at a certain temperature for safe storage. As my understandings are, they're in a phase 1B, which the phases that are rolled out, phase 1A were your frontline medical workers, phase 1B are your seniors in nursing homes over the age of 70 and first responders that have medical responsibilities. So they're rolling those out. The DHEC is working to create a location of mass vaccinations where anybody would be able to come. They currently have one in Columbia that they have opened and tried it there, and we're working with them to find a location in Kershaw County where people would be able to drive in and not necessarily have to give an appointment. Appointments have been an issue for people. They require the creation of an email account, which a lot of seniors do not have, and it was confusing for many. DHEC was sharing with us just ended last week that they are creating a new website and new process with a call center as well, so people would be able to register for their vaccination with a whole lot less hassle, and they're rolling that out this week and next week.
If I could move on a minute, I've had a few folks call me, seniors, they just weren't able to get through, and I've talked to quite a few people that just had to go to Columbia or Florence, and because they couldn't get in here, but yet they could get in another community or another county.
And again, part of it is just a limit that we had. As the senator said, we were 185 maybe, at one point maybe 300, and you can go through 300 pretty quickly when you have people. So that was one of the bigger issues where there just weren't a lot of vaccines available to the county.
Right. Mr. Tucker, did you get yours, your family, did they finally get theirs in Kershaw County?
Yes, not in Kershaw County, but they are scheduled for appointments. We use the different websites and phone calls.
Where did they go?
It's Doctor's Care and Sam's Pharmacy. Yes.
In Columbia?
At Forest Drive. Yes.
And not trying to be ugly or anything, it's just the facts. And I was just wondering, why?
To the best of my knowledge, that's the reason is
Sure.
the lack of available vaccines.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, if I might respond, the senator summed it up. Rural counties like ours were given a disproportionately lower amount of vaccine. It's egregious. Our senator and indeed all our delegation is aware. And as Senator Gustafson just said, getting the number kicked up was extremely important. They felt like in Kershaw Health, and I've talked to Sue Sugar about it, Jimmy, and thanks for raising that issue, man. It's a big deal, isn't it? She said that she is today trying to find out the allocation that the senator just argued for on our behalf. And she will open up additional venues to give the shots. I mean, the waiting time is 0 because they run out of vaccines so fast, Jimmy. The point you also raised, and I just want to hit on that again, is because you got to go on email, a lot of people don't have email, a lot of people won't use email, and a lot of people don't understand it and are either confused by it, and I certainly took 8 hours before I finally got through, and I'm pretty good on email. So the system is flawed. I'm certainly gratified by the way people are going out and helping people who are not as good at using email and web-based registration. I see churches doing it. I see Sammy doing it with his entire family. All of us are trying to help each other, but I'm glad you raised that point. It's a real flaw in the system, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, and a follow-up to that. So basically, with what the senator said about the increase in volume, we should see a difference within the next couple of weeks.
I think this week.
Good.
Yeah. Mr. Tucker.
I won't belay this. This is just something that kind of struck me, and all my colleagues up here know where I'm talking about. I'm just very curious why that the local pharmacies, and this is more for the senator to take back, and your local doctors, who probably see 85 to 90% of your elderly folks, are not able to administer this vaccination, because that's where the older population goes. And if nothing else they do, I know the older population votes and they go to their doctor's appointments. I can promise you that. Those two things they're going to do.
And Mr. Tucker, I would hazard the response that is probably, again, the inability to store the vaccines on site because you're required to keep it at 70 degrees below zero, and they just don't have those kinds of coolers available to them. And our hospitals is very limited in its size as well. So that's been one of the bigger issues, is not just is it available, but can you store it and keep it safe?
Well, all I'll say on that, Johnson & Johnson, hurry up and come, because that's a different vaccine.
Yeah.
One time, nothing below 0.
Other comments? I know all of you have been involved. I made the case where I could, for example, on delineations of who ought to be in the first line, and I said such people as ambulance drivers and indeed ministers. We're a very religious county, and we are properly respectful of our clergy. And the clergy are very often in that group of people that go see families in these times of need. But unfortunately, that's not happened. However, the city of Myrtle Beach allowed that to happen, and a whole bunch of Catholic priests were headed for Myrtle Beach last week. And they all got their shots. Just show up. And another thing is the voluntary nature of it. We've heard from one of our citizens, raising questions about it. I personally don't happen to agree with that, what he said, but like I said, it's a free country. But it's a free country in a lot of ways. For example, my children are in special forces, and they are not required. You cannot order a soldier to take the shot. You can make them wear the mask because that's a uniform, but you can't make them take the shot. So the Navy, the Army, and Marine Corps and Air Force are finding that they've got extra doses, and Fort Bragg, for example, is opening up. And I think Fort Jackson may just give back some of their doses. So this is what we're hearing here, as I've heard from Mr. Jones, Mr. Tucker, and all of you. It's kind of like a Wikipedia environment, isn't it? Wikipedia was everybody is getting collective information, and the more we talk to each other, and crosstalk, as Jimmy and Sammy are doing, would help our people understand where it's going. And then we have our delegation, thank you, Senator, stepping up and fighting for us. So getting through this thing is going to be something we do together. Mr. Jones?
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, right quickly, and I'll end this. Are there any help sites available? Or has anybody thought about any help sites available for?
Mr. Brazel, please, sir.
I think to skip ahead of government and everybody else and just go straight to the scdhec.gov.
Yeah.
It lays out, I'm looking at it now, find COVID vaccine location, find a testing location.
Yeah.
It's got all the updates.
Yep.
Per DHEC, it's updated almost minute to minute in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Jones?
Let me follow. I'm sorry, I want to make sure I follow up. That wasn't what I was talking about. Help site, I meant for seniors to be carried to, that they could go to or call, because sometimes folks don't know how to use the computer.
Yeah, that's the point.
So when I said help sites, I apologize.
Yeah.
I didn't clarify.
Yeah.
But are there any help sites to where they could go or they could call that would help them fill out or follow through to get their vaccine?
I've found that when you go to these sites, they help you, but getting there for seniors is sometimes a problem. You nailed it, Jimmy, and Russell has the right answer, but getting to it is the problem. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, are we all on the same page on that?
I think we are.
Mr. Chairman, if I can share this.
Mr. Gardner had the
Okay.
next point. Tom, please, sir.
I think that's a great idea, Jimmy. But I think that our failure as the state is that we failed last year to plan when we knew a vaccine was coming. We knew in May, and we failed to plan, and we're behind everybody in the country. I think the data says that we're 50th in giving vaccines, and I think we go back to leadership at the governor's office and DHEC. I think that's where you got to point the finger.
I agree with you.
I went online last night. I have an appointment Sunday in Charlotte to get my vaccine.
Charlotte.
atriumhealth.org. They had appointments available, atriumhealth.org. I have an appointment at 5 o'clock Sunday, and I have my second appointment on February 28th already. I mean, that's the way you do things. I mean, we're behind times, but again, Atrium Health in Charlotte, Bank of America Stadium, they're doing a drive-through. There are about 7 sites on there where you can get it. So if you're listening, that's a place that if you're looking to get the vaccine, go there. And I know it's not South Carolina, but if you want it, it's a place you can go get it.
Mr. Tucker, you were next, and then Mr. Snodgrass.
Yes, sir. I just want to put this out because I think it's important. Councilman Jones was speaking of the ones that just can't do the internet, may not have internet access. The one at Sam's Club Pharmacy, now, this is the one on Forest Drive. It's just a phone number, 803-790-1581. You call that number and you give your information.
Give it
and
again,
and
please.
you set it up.
Give those the numbers, please, again.
803-790-1581.
Thank you.
And they can set your appointment up through a phone call, which is much better than trying to get on a computer for folks who's not quite as savvy.
The Atrium Health is the same way, that you can do it with a phone number, and it asks for an email, but I don't think it's required, so I think you can do it there as well.
Yeah, like I say, it's like Wikipedia, everybody inputting. Mr. Snodgrass, you were next.
One quick thing, it's
Yeah.
also 65 in North Carolina, not 70.
Yeah, that's right. That's where my wife's headed. I won't tell you how old she is. Go ahead.
I will, Mr. Carpenter, and I asked this question maybe just to give DHEC we'll give him a little benefit of the doubt. The email thing, that's not so much a DHEC thing. Isn't that a VAMS thing? That's a federal government thing. That wasn't a DHEC system, but the email part is VAMS, correct?
Yes, sir, I believe so.
Okay. And I do know that they're working through that, and I don't want to say a whole lot on this. I happened to be in a conversation with our hospital leadership recently, and you'll be proud to know I'm excited about what I think they're going to be announcing here pretty soon. That's going to allow citizens better access. That's what a lot of hospitals are doing. They're trying to find workarounds around the VAMS system, not workaround, but ways in which they can get patient information differently than that. So I'm very optimistic about what I'm hearing that they're working on.
Yeah.
And then another question, Mr. Carpenter, I see our great EMS director back there. How's our first responder system working? I mean, how's everything going as far as load, call volume throughout all of this pandemic?
Well, and Jill can certainly correct me. Our call volume is up, obviously, quite a bit, and that led to us having to change our normal protocols for transport to where we will now transport to the nearest appropriate hospital for an individual they call in, and that resulted in a pretty significant decrease in the number of out-of-county transports this week. We only had 3 out-of-county transports as a result of that, which frees up our local vehicles for local calls to respond quicker. So they are dealing with obviously increased calls, but that change alone has helped them a good bit.
Boy, that was good. Thanks for
Well,
bringing that
thank
up.
you so much, Gerald. Thank you so much to your staff. It seems like every time I turn around in town, I hear a siren, and one of your folks is heading out somewhere. So I know you guys have been not just with COVID stuff, but just in general, people in need. So thanks. Keep up the good work.
Mr. Jones.
I want to follow up on that. I really do appreciate the way EMS has been thinking ahead.
Yeah, buddy.
Not waiting till something happens like government, but you've been thinking ahead. And I really do appreciate that, because that is about lives when they pick people up.
Let me come back to the what Mr. Snodgrass said. I talked to Sue Sugar often, and she runs our hospital. She says we'll transition to a new facility in addition to the hospital. The new facility will be on Battleship Road at what they used to call the HRC. Y'all all know where that is. And that'll come out very soon. But that's dependent on opening multiple vaccine stations and the availability of vaccine. So that's exactly the point all of y'all have been making. And the hospital is responding, but they need to have the vaccine. And secondly, she is very aware of the issues that Mr. Jones and Mr. Tucker have raised about the relative difficulty of getting into VAMS. We're all learning the lingo, aren't we? And she has set up a system where you can self-schedule either by phone or by email, but not yet. Okay, so let's wait, as Mr. Snodgrass says, for the Kershaw Health to roll this out. All these plans, quote unquote, will be dependent on getting the vaccine. And secondly, she says she's going to reach out to Vic Carpenter, which is another good thing. Senator Gustafson has got Mr. Carpenter on the state, I don't know what they call it, vaccine board or something. Are you going to be administering shots, Vic? I hope not. But he gives us a voice at the state level in addition to our delegation, and he can also advise us. So that's great, Vic. Just one more thing for you to do, but we appreciate you doing that. Other comments? Gentlemen, I thank you for this. This has been most helpful for me. I learned a lot. I know our citizens did too. Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to the next item, Mr. Carpenter, if that's the end of that briefing.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, tonight you have for a third reading an ordinance to rezone approximately 70 acres of land, the current zoning of RD1 to be rezoned to R15. It has previously been approved by council on 2 previous votes, and it is before you tonight for third and final reading.
It's at tab C, it's up on the screen, and at page 9 in your electronic books. Can we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tucker, a second? Do you have a second?
Not my district. Second. Yeah.
Mr. Snodgrass, discussion. I believe we have Mr. Lackey here and Mr. Cox. All right. If there are any questions for the owners and so on. Questions?
Yes, I think Mr. Lackey does a great job. I don't see any need for questions.
Yeah, others? No questions? We can move quickly to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous, Mary, and it passes on the third reading. Thank you very much, Mr. Lackey. I'll see you at the park at 5:30 in the morning. All right. Mr. Lackey runs at 5:30 in the morning. That is a crazy man. Our next item is at tab D, I believe, and page 31. Mr. Carpenter, can you introduce it?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, we have in front of you tonight for second reading an intergovernmental agreement between Kershaw County and the town of Bethune, which authorizes Kershaw County to provide services in the area of planning and zoning to the town of Bethune. It previously was approved by County Council on first reading.
Very good. Can we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Gardner, it's your district. Second?
Second.
From Mr. Tucker, discussion, Mr. Gardner?
I think that we talked about it not adding a great deal of duties to what we already do, so, and any excess cost will be paid by the applicant or town of Bethune, if that's the case. So I think it's a good thing.
Other questions? Mr. Jones or Mr. Connell?
I was just going to
Ben,
say,
go
I
ahead.
followed up with the planning and zoning director, Mr. Conley, and asked him what kind of volume they'd seen over the years that would relate to this agreement, and he said roughly over 5 years, maybe 2 or 3 times that they've done something that would be
Thank you.
not on the regular fee schedule, so it seems to be very minimal.
Good, good. Other comments? Mr. Jones, go right ahead.
I plan to vote for second reading, but third reading, I've got some questions. I've had a couple of folks come up to me and ask me questions, so I want to speak with you and Mr. Gardner, but we'll do that during the next couple of weeks.
Terrific, terrific. And we have Mr.
So I
Conley
can
here.
get some clarification.
Yeah, very good. And Mr. Conley is here too if you need to talk with him. Other comments? Okay, we're ready to move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous. We move to the next item, which is on page 33 at tab E. Please, Mr. Carpenter.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have in front of you tonight for first reading an ordinance to rezone 2 parcels of land totaling approximately 53 acres, 1 parcel from MRD1, the second from RD2, to both being GD, General Development. It has previously been approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously.
Is this at the motor park?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Can we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Gardner, second?
Second.
That was you, David?
Yes, sir.
Very good. All right, discussion. Who wants? I would first ask you to give a little more information on what this is all about, Mr.
Yes, Mr.
Carpenter.
Chairman, and I misspoke. It's 3 parcels, not 2. I'm sorry. The Cummings, who have purchased the Carolina Motorsports Park last year, have made a commitment to some significant upgrades and improvements. They've already spent significantly on resurfacing the track out there, and they're working to develop its ability to host and to attract large events. Part of their plan involves these parcels here, bringing them into the park itself, and perhaps ultimately developing them into some kind of either living quarters, not living quarters, but condominiums where people could actually stay while they're racing their vehicles, as well as other development related to the ability to run the park itself.
Very good. I went out there when they first opened, and there were suddenly 400 Formula One race cars out there. I mean, this is the kind of car that Mr. Jones would drive when he was 15 years old. And it's an amazing thing. They put in $1 million into new asphalt out there, because when you're driving a car that fast, it's got to have good turf. Mr. Jones, you had a comment, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, thank you so much. I have spoke with a couple of people that are involved in this up there, and this could really be a good thing for Kershaw County. It really could. It may not. Nothing may happen in a period of time, but the sooner the better, because as I said, I think it could be really good for us. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Other comments? Mr. Snodgrass.
No, I'd say I'm excited that the zoning commission brought this to us with a unanimous vote. Here in Kershaw County, we like to race, whether that be horses or cars. So whatever keeps us on that track, no pun intended, of being the race capital of the world, whether it's a horse or a car, we'll bring it on. I did reach out to some Westville neighbors up there and just to kind of get their feedback, and the feedback that I received was very positive. And I know that this will just continue to boost the economy up there, whether you're talking about Russell's Barbecue or any of the other areas around there, that will just bring traffic to that area of the county, but at the same time, keeping the unique rural nature of that part of the county as well. So I think this is a responsible move on our part, and these folks have been great neighbors since they've come on board, and it's good for our county.
Mr. Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would just ask staff, since this was placed into the agenda packet, was there any negative feedback or other feedback that came from the public?
Mike Conley, come on up.
On email.
excuse me, since it came before Planning Commission, we have not since then, but prior to Planning Commission, we had a couple of neighbors call and question just to get some information. None of them outrightly objected to it. Then we did have a letter that was sent to the Planning Commission, read to Planning Commission, of a resident just down that road who asked it not be approved.
Okay. Well, it looks interesting. I'm intrigued. I'll support it on first reading. I'd like to
Okay,
learn a lot
thank you.
more.
Other comments? I would tell you there was one other piece, that there's some legislation that the previous delegation and the current delegation with Senator Gustafson are trying to pass to help this become an effective and sustainable business in the north part of our county. So there's work yet to be done. This is a great start. I have met with 2 industries that want to move here. They want to move their race cars and their race car businesses here from New Jersey. And we've passed that off to Vic Carpenter to work through economic development. It won't be a lot of jobs, but it's going to be high tech. And there are businesses in Lugoff that service this particular industry, if y'all have not seen them down there near Dave's place. So this could add to our horse racing a different kind of horsepower. So we'll see how it happens. I intend to support it on first reading. Other comments? All right, with that, let's move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Mr. Jones, Mr. Connell, Mr. Burns, Mr. Gardner, Mr. Tucker, and Mr. Snodgrass. All those opposed? In opposition is Mr. Brazel. With that, Mary, it passes on first reading. We'll move it forward to the second reading. Next item is item number 3. It's on page 61. Mary, you had a lot of work putting this one together. Mr. Carpenter, can you introduce it, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have in front of you for first reading an amended ordinance to change the rules of Kershaw County Council.
Very good. It's on page 66. It's up on the screen, and it's at tab E. And Mr. Jones, you're excited to introduce it. Can you have a motion, please?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, members of County Council, I move for first reading of the amended and restated ordinance by Kershaw County Council determining rules and order of business to add under Section 2.5, Order of Business, number 12, Public Comments Follow-Up, and to add Appendix 3, Public Comments Follow-Up.
Good. Can we have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Brazel. Mr. Jones, can you introduce the topic?
Yes, thank you for the second, Mr. Brazel.
Specifically what we're looking for
Appreciate
here.
it. And, Mr. Chairman, what this is, of course, you'll see you have a memo that was put in there as well in your packet this time.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay?
Page
Go ahead.
66.
So basically what it says is the rules are the same as regular public comment, except it is limited, this public comment follow-up is limited to 2 minutes for each speaker and a 10 minutes total, and also provides, where you see number 5, in 2.5, number 5, if you go to that page, you can see under Section 2.5 Order of Business, go down to number 12, where it says Public Comments Follow-Up. It's been put there. And then if you'll go to Appendix 3, the last page, that's been added. And Appendix 3, Public Comment Follow-Up, Rules 2, Public Comment Follow-Up. And if you look at number 5, when the agenda item public comment follow-up is reached, the chairman shall give an opportunity for members of the public to sign up to speak as provided by these rules. And number 6 says, public comment follow-up period is limited to 10 minutes with 2 minutes maximum allowed per individual speaker. Then number 7, public comment follow-up is an opportunity for the public to share information with council to the matters considered by or voted on or discussed as an agenda item by council during the meeting, because it would come after the new business. It would be an opportunity to give the public a little bit more involvement within our meetings, which I think is very good. And also I have found out that there are other counties that do this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, let me just, for clarification, Jimmy, essentially we have a public comment at the front.
Correct.
Like we did
Changes
today.
nothing there. Changes nothing there.
Change nothing. And then at each point along the way, when we have an ordinance, we then, at the end of discussion, chairman asks for comments from the audience, correct?
No, sir, you would ask, is there anybody who would like to sign up to comment? 'Cause
Okay.
There'd only be 10 minutes.
All right,
And if it's one person, it'd be 2 minutes. If it was, more than that, you would divide it up as we do with our 30-minute section we had prior to the meeting.
okay.
It has nothing to do with, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but it has nothing to do with the public comment in the beginning. This is a public comment follow-up, which will come in after new business.
After new business.
After new business.
But not after each item, but after
No,
new
no, no,
business.
no, after new business, one time only within
Okay,
the,
okay.
on the agenda.
All right, very good. Mr. Brazel, do you have any comments?
I'd love to see more people come in and
Okay,
we get a lot of people weighing in on social media. I want them to come in and weigh in here. We need them here, and I think this is an excellent opportunity to give them more of an opportunity to be here and, tell us what's on their mind.
okay.
We
Mr.
need to be-
Thank you,
We
Mr.
need to
President.
certainly be more transparent, and I'm happy to support that.
Good. Mr. Gardner?
Are we still not commenting on them, or are we just going to let them get up and talk again, and we're not going to comment again?
The same rules follow, Mr. Gardner. We won't be able to comment. It'd just be, they'll get up to just voice their concerns or whatever. It'd be the same as the public comments in the beginning. It's going to be a public comment follow-up after we go through a portion of our agenda and complete the new business.
I think it's redundant, personally.
I disagree,
won't
but
support it. I won't support that.
well, I disagree with you wholeheartedly, but thank you so
Let me
much.
ask you this, procedural, since the chairman has to conduct that. Suppose the idea is that the comments must be directed at the follow-up against items in new business. Is that correct? Only?
Pertaining to items
So
pertaining to items within the agenda that we've already
any
gone
point
through.
item, any,
Basically, it would probably be more geared at new business because that's where we vote to make changes. But
Yeah.
bottom line is that's when it would come in. And guys, what will it hurt? I mean, it's the way I look at it, we're having a lengthy discussion on it. And I don't know that there needs to be a lengthy discussion because you're either for it or you're not. And I think everybody on this table knows what this is all about. It's there. It will give people more opportunity to sign up and speak and be involved with us and participate with us, even though we will not comment or we will not have any conversation with them during that period of time. I just don't see where it's that big of an issue to not want to at least give it a try. It all comes down in government to perception. And I think we would be sending a message out there to the folks that, we do, and I know all of you care, but we do care about you. We want to hear from you. We care about how you feel on the process that we just had. And I just think it's a great thing. I don't know what else I can say.
but let me just go back to, okay, the chairman's up here and the guy starts to talk about something completely unassociated with the agenda.
Agenda items only.
So then the chairman has to say, I hate to say it, but I have to do a point of order on the speaker.
But you'd be correct on that. It's agenda
I
items
just
only.
want to understand what your intent is.
Correct. Agenda items only.
Okay, got it. Other comments, Mr. Snodgrass?
Mr. Jones, have you thought about just moving public comments to after new business? Just having that one section?
But then you're decreasing the time, and I guess my question is, why would you even ask me that question?
Oh, I'm just curious. I'm just trying to
I mean,
grasp.
that's taking, and with all due respect, I'm not meaning to be rude at you, but I just don't
I asked your
understand.
question because this is part of the process.
Yeah, I just don't understand why that question would even be asked, because if you would do away with the 30 minutes, then you just cut it down to 10 minutes.
Just everything that's public comment, 30 minutes. I'm not talking about decreasing time.
Oh, you mean take the 30 minutes and go to
Yeah,
the...
if the concern is citizens being able to comment on what has taken place, then you would move that down there instead of having two public comments.
Well, that sort of kills the whole purpose of what I'm trying to do. I want to give them more time. The public has 30 minutes at the beginning of the meeting,
Right?
and then the public will have 10 minutes after we go through our agenda items and finish new business.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems a little redundant.
It's
all
not.
that. So, all right, Mr. Attorney, let me ask you this. what's happening up here according to home rule, and what are we doing right now?
Well, Mr. Jones has made a motion to amend your rules in order of business.
No, I'm talking about in general, county council meeting. What is this, a town hall, or is this a business? What is the function of what we're doing?
Well, it's informational and legislative,
Okay.
and it's informational also. I mean, proclamations aren't per se legislative. They're more declarations. So it's declarations, information, and legislation.
Okay. So legislature, and a part of that is we're doing the business of the county. This is not primarily a town hall meeting as much as this is the council of Kershaw County doing the business of the county. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Just so we know our definitions and, all right. Thank you.
Other comments? Mr. Gardner?
Rather than having two, why don't we move public comments after new business? Is that what you said, David? Not have two. He said have two. You had one in the beginning and move it down.
Yeah, he wants two, and I was just trying to be practical. If I'm just have one, move it down.
Yeah, okay. I was trying to understand what you said. I'd move public comments to the end, and they can sit there and listen to everything we said, and then they can get up and comment on the end. I'm not opposed to that. Move it to the end. I'm opposed to two.
Well,
Okay.
I don't agree with that.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, well,
Just saying.
Very good. Mr. Connell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wouldn't favor moving the entire block to the end. I think that the importance of the First Amendment making a public forum is so that government or the legislative process, as Mr. DeBose said, can actually get actionable information. So if we move it after news business, then we wouldn't be able to vote on anything. Someone has a brilliant idea and we don't hear it, and then you hear it right after you voted, you can't act again for another 2 weeks. I was trying to think back over the 4 years so far that I've been up here. You've had maybe just a few times where we've actually needed to expand or extend the public comment section, and I think in every instance we've actually done that. And I'd be in favor of saying, public comments at the beginning when we can get actionable information should be extended if needed. I think we've actually done that in every instance.
Yeah, we have.
But having non-actionable information come in, which would either be, hey, I think you did a great job on what you voted on, or I think you did a bad job on what you voted on, and these are the reasons why, are all things that can be shared in public comment, and we can't act on it, at least for not another 2 weeks. So I would oppose this.
Okay. Mr. Gardner?
we can't act on it anyway because it's not an agenda item. I mean, people can bring in 47 great ideas, not on the agenda, we're not going to vote on it anyway.
It's in the beginning.
All right. Other discussion?
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, Mr.
what I meant, Mr. Gardner, was we couldn't act on a vote on the agenda if it came after the fact. I mean, if you already voted, you can't take the information into account in voting yea or nay.
Mr. Jones?
Mr. Chairman, once again, this is something that I have strong opinions about, and obviously my colleagues do too. However, they have a right to their opinion. But I truly think this would be a good gesture to the public when government's popularity is at an all-time low. And it shows that we care, we want to hear from you. And no matter who you are or where you come from, we want to hear from you, and we're willing to open it up. And as I said, Madam Clerk, do you know of any counties, or have you heard of any counties that are, I had gotten some information there were other counties. Are you aware of any? Okay. Florence does it. Okay. But anyway, I think this is a good thing. I think it'd give more opportunity for people to be involved. And thank you so much for your time.
All right, very good. I think we're ready to move to a vote. We have a motion here to make these changes, the rules of our behavior as a council. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Mr. Jones and Mr. Brazel. All those opposed signify likewise. Mr. Snodgrass, Mr. Tucker, Mr. Gardner, Mr. Burns, and Mr. Connell, and the motion fails. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman,
very
members
helpful.
of the council.
Very helpful. With that, we move to the next item on the agenda, which is, I think, the Elgin Pump Station. It's at page 70 in your book, and it's on the screen. Mr. Carpenter.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have in front of you tonight staff put out for bids for the extension of the Elgin 1 pump station force main, approximately 10,800 linear feet of force main and valves. 7 were received. The low bid of $410,000 was from Site Concepts, which has done a number of projects for the county in the past and has been a good contractor. Staff recommends awarding the bid to Site Concepts.
Very good. Can we have a motion to approve?
So made.
Mr. Connell, a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Brazel. Discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, absolutely, Mr.
This is a
Connell.
project that sorely needs to be done. We've been getting updates that, well, we knew for quite some time as we had the engineer studying it, that the system needed to be upgraded, the piping needed to be upgraded, that the pump stations need to be upgraded just due to the growth in the West Watery area. And this is something that we can't act on quickly enough, in my view.
All right.
Because as growth continues, the sewer need, there's no way to mitigate it. You have to take care of it.
I think that's an amen. Any other discussion? Mr. Jones, go ahead.
I think it's pretty obvious that Highway 1, Salt Pond Road, is where we have the urgency, to get the flow going correctly. Am I right, Mr. Carpenter?
And the entire Highway 1 corridor, yes, sir.
Yeah. And would you explain, when we do the turnaround, what's going to happen?
Well, what this will do is this will basically route force main around the high school, allowing us to take out of service gravity flow, which can result in backups if too much flow comes through. So the implementation of this will do two things. First of all, it'll allow us to move the flow much quicker. It'll reduce the potential for backups, and plus it'll take out of service a force main through the property of the high school, which has been problematic in the past.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, other discussion? Sir, Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Carpenter, not to raise any eyebrows, but just a bit of concern. I'm looking at these, first of all, have we used site concepts before?
Several times.
Right,
Yes,
I'm gonna
sir.
say, I thought I've heard the name before. I'm just looking at the difference in these bids. Everybody in South Carolina is up to double or several $100,000 more than what they are, and they're from Florida. Closest cat to them is in Georgia. It's just, I mean, they got a home station here or something?
They do a lot of work in South Carolina based,
Okay.
I mean, just, we can tell from our own service with them. And like I said, they've been very reputable. They've caused us no problems. Their bids have been low bids, and they've been good bids.
Thank you.
Other discussion? There's a certain amount of, yeah,
I
Mr.
was just going to
Jones.
say, I appreciate Mr. Tucker bringing that point, because it does concern you when you see 410 and you go to 937.
Yes.
And you're wondering, okay, why is there such a big difference? And then you got some folks closer or at
In-state.
home that are so high. Do you know of some other customers that have used this company?
Well, again, I'd say that we've used them. We've had a good experience with them. We've never had a problem. And
So we have used
and we, when they provide us references, we check them, and they use us as a reference, and we confirm their quality to us. So I can't tell you why somebody would bid as much higher than others. That's their bidding process. I don't know what they did.
I'll just comment that they are based at one location, but they probably have a real presence here. And I want to explore that. Do you know what their presence is in the state of South Carolina? Because they're probably a regional contracting agency.
I don't, but I could find out, sir.
Yeah, just as a point of information, I don't want to hold the vote up for that. But yeah, very often you get a big firm like that, they have got subsidiaries everywhere. Mr. Jones, does that get to your point?
It does. I have one quick question. When we finish this turnaround, is that going to increase our capacity?
It'll increase our ability, our capacity in the system, yes, sir. It won't increase the capacity in the plant, but it does increase our capacity in moving through the system.
Do we have the capacity right now if a big industry comes in?
In this particular area, not at the minute, no, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Big point. Mr. Connell.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I was just going to say generally, we love these local businesses. They bid sometimes just to stay in the game. May not be the project that would be the top of their priority list, but they bid to stay in the game and keep their name involved on some level.
Absolutely.
Mr. Jones.
And make no mistake, I was going to support this. I had no intentions not to support this, but I just wanted to get some clarification publicly. Thank you.
Yep, good. Ben, you satisfied? This is your area.
Yes, sir. And overall, the Southern Loop is a priority as well, and we're working on that. But I think any help to the system is help overall.
Okay, very good. I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor of this recommendation signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous, and we can move forward with that. With that, I think we move to council briefings. Mr. Brazel, we'll start with you.
Thanks for, again, making me feel comfortable, everybody, and being here. I don't really have any briefings. I'm just trying to get comfortable here, and this is new to me, and I'm studying and learning, and hope to add value. So that's it.
Very good. Mr. Connell?
You're doing fine, Russell. I have no report tonight, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Jones?
Mr. Chairman, just one quick comment. Going back to, and of course you brought it up at the very beginning of the meeting about the emergency ordinance. You know, what bothers me, I've asked for us to be put 6 feet apart. We're not. And we could be stationed 6 feet apart. I will respect rules. I will respect laws, whether I agree with it or not. But bottom line is, we're not even doing what we asked folks to do. And we took our mask off to have our pictures made. But then we're told to put your mask on when you sit here behind this chair. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. And I'm just saying that I wish at least we could try to go 6 feet apart.
Let's see what we can do. Yeah.
And Mr. Chairman, you know, you folks know I've asked that 3 or 4 times. So in my opinion, we're not even doing what we're asking folks to do themselves. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Snodgrass?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, members of council, just want to say it was a great, last week was able to be a part of an event here in the council chambers with our junior leadership program here in the county. It was their day to come and learn about county government. And even though I was quarantined at the moment, I was able to zoom in and to be a part of that. And it's great seeing young people who are involved, who want to be involved in the process, want to learn about the process, and was honored to be able to take part in that. And just along the lines of democratic process, I hope everyone understands that I am very accessible through cell number, email, social media, whatever. I do want to hear from you. And if there are things on the agenda that you see coming up, let me know. I try to be very active out in the community so that I don't only just hear from you at public comment, but I hear from you at the restaurant down the road, that I hear from you in places of worship at the grocery store, where we can have, I would argue, more robust interaction and better back and forth to help each other understand the issue. So I hope everyone in the county is very aware that I'm very accessible, and I want to hear from you and your view on matters that come before council. Thank you.
Mr. Tucker?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Miss Mary, 2 things I will ask of you, please, ma'am. One is when Mr. Maddox sends in another e-letter, please have him to give you the instructions on the puppet. I missed that today, but I appreciate your reading.
No.
The other is that if anybody would volunteer, it would be me. I'm happy to sit out so we can be 6 foot apart. So feel free to volunteer me. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Mr. Gardner?
No report.
I'll just say very quickly, the son of Edith Brazel will be effective from day one, and you have been welcome. It's great to have you here, and give my best to Roy. They're a great family, and we're lucky to have you aboard. There's no issues there. I will quickly hit a couple of points. I want to welcome Boy Scouts again. Thank you, sir. That means you got to go home and do homework now. Senator, thank you for coming. Always welcome, and you can see your value added here today. I would mention that we got a letter from the Bethune Town Council. I passed it to Mr. Gardner asking for funds, and I think Mr. Carpenter and Mr. Gardner can tell us how to handle that. I've been asked by Mr. Darrell Ogburn, who is the chairman of our Kershaw County Health Services Board, to state that, as you already know, that the Prisma deal with Kershaw Health may or may not go through. There's been a federal ruling on the issue. I'm no lawyer, but I think we could see that one coming from about a year ago based on the way the case was presented by the Lexington Hospital. Quite a different business model, and they had a lot at risk, and they stepped up effectively in the federal court system. Irrespective of that, Mr. Ogburn asked me to pass on to everybody in Kershaw County that the Kershaw Health and the Kershaw Health Services District are fully engaged on this issue and the commitment to provide quality health care, and secondly, keep the Kershaw wing going, Mr. Jones, as you would say. And the Beechwood project continues. We need to support our hospital and our health services board. They are working hard at it. And I would also say the employees at the Kershaw Health need to know of our respect for them, not just in this COVID environment, but also with the disappointment that must reign when the deal became hazarded when it went to the federal court here last fall. I would also mention we got the Super Bowl coming. We're all going to do Super Bowl parties. Not me. I'm going to be safely distanced and watch the winning team, Kansas City. It has our same initials, so I'll be voting for them. But I would ask you all to socially distance when you yell for the KC team out of Kansas City. I would lastly say, Mr. Jones and Mr. Brazel, wonderful motivation. I think we can achieve it by other means. And the challenge to all of us is to be transparent, accessible, and listening to the citizens. Thank you, Mr. Jones, for highlighting that issue. I couldn't support the way it was structured, but I support what the motivation is, and we need to do something about it. And lastly, let's take seriously about separation up here. I think maybe move one of us off. I'll sit down there if you want. Maybe Mary and Mr. Templer can move off, and we can come up with a solution. Mr. Jones, you're right on the money. With that, Mr. Carpenter.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, just a reminder that the 2nd of February, next Tuesday, will be our first workshop for the planning, goal setting, and budget season, 5:30 at WTC Willard Technology Center, and we'll be in touch with you and reminding you throughout the week. Also, you see up, we have our next movie night at the Wateree River Veterans Park. It'll be February the 13th, and it's a daddy-daughter, a mama-son movie night. There will be food trucks available, so we encourage you to come out and have a great night at the Veterans Park.
Can I bring Mr. Jones?
That's my report.
Mr. Bowes.
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing.
And with that, we have no executive session. So with that, can I have a motion to dismiss?
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, yes.
if y'all will just pay attention at the end, there's a for information only section at the end of your agenda regarding committees, and some of the terms are expired, if y'all will notice that.
Very good. I'll get with you, Mary, tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you. With that, a motion to retire.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tucker, a second? Mr. Gardner, any discussion? Seeing there is none, we move to a vote. All those in favor? And it's unanimous.